In today's Passion for Food mini episode, I'll show you how to make fresh pasta. It's actually really easy. Let's go ahead and jump in. The ingredients couldn't be simpler. All we're going to need here is 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 3 large eggs. And I will be using my mixer for this, but you could certainly mix it together by hand with a wooden spoon at first and then switching to your hands to knead after a while. We may or may not need to add a couple teaspoons of water to this depending on the size of the eggs. One key piece of advice is not to add water too soon. It might look very crumbly at first, but let it mix together and see if it will actually come together for you. Probably one of the main mistakes that I've found myself making is adding water too soon. Once the dough gets too sticky, it's really annoying to get it the right consistency, so definitely hold back on adding the moisture. I decided to give mine a check, and I decided it was feeling pretty dry, so I'm going to add about a tablespoon of water here just to get this to come together into a dough ball for us, as well as switching to my dough hook attachment for this mixer. And we just want to knead this until it comes together into a smooth ball that starts to pull away from the sides of our container as we're kneading it. After about 5 minutes of kneading, this is what the consistency should look like. You want it to be soft and a little bit stretchy, but it shouldn't stick to your fingers as you work with it. If the dough is a little too sticky, we want to add a bit more flour and work it a bit longer. Ours had a good consistency though, so I'm just going to cover it in a little bit of flour and stick it in a Ziploc bag to rest. You want to let this rest at least 20 minutes. That'll just give the dough a little more resiliency later. After 20 minutes, we're going to go ahead and get this rolled out. I like to divide my dough into approximately fourths. If you don't have any kind of a fancy pasta machine like this, you can totally just roll this out with a rolling pin, kind of fold it up on itself and cut ribbons with a knife. It's surprisingly easy doing that. But I'm going to go ahead and use my roller. I like kind of stretching it out a little by hand first. If you are going to be using one of these machines, I recommend going on setting number 1. That is the thickest setting first, and then just going straight for your final thickness, which for me is number 4. That's probably about 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to roll to our final thickness, and just repeat that with the other 4 pieces. And did I mention how pretty I think these look as they're being rolled, especially if you got that dough consistency right? But anyway, on to the cutting. And speaking of cutting, you probably want to cut those big sheets at least in half. If you're worried at all about stickage, you can coat that in flour before feeding it into the cutter. Again, if you don't have one of these machines, you can simply roll this out and kind of fold it in half and just slice it with a knife. But that's it. Our fresh pasta is ready to cook. And I would suggest cooking it pretty much right away. And just a quick tip on cooking this, it's not like cooking dried pasta. It cooks almost instantly. I'd say you only want to cook it for 2-3 minutes tops. These noodles pair great with just about any kind of sauce you'd like to throw at them. I made these noodles to pair with my classic tomato spaghetti sauce. Check out the link in the top right to learn how to make that. It really is delicious. But that's it. Our classic homemade noodles are ready. I really hope you've enjoyed this mini episode of Passion for Food. If you have, please give me a thumbs up below and consider subscribing and hitting that little bell to be notified of our weekly episodes. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.